Hi all, welcome to today's episode of Biology Broadcast. The topic of the day is nervous system and muscular system communication. Now let's pass it on to Drew to tell us all about the nervous system and muscular system. Thanks, Drew. There are two main parts of the nervous system, the central nervous system, or CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, or PNS. The CNS is made up of the brain and spinal cord. The PNS is made up of all the nerves in the body. The muscular system is an organ system that contains smooth skeletal and cardiac muscles. The system deals with movement of the body, posture, and blood circulation. Let's hand it over to Drew to discuss impulse signaling.
I appreciate it, Drew. So, nerve impulses are one of the big ways that cells communicate. Essentially, electrical signals get sent along the dendrites of a neuron to produce a nerve impulse, also known as an action potential. These nerve impulses travel through the motor neurons, the neurons that directly connect to organs, such as muscles and glands. The location where these motor neurons reach this muscle cell is known as the neuromuscular junction. The chemical message that comes from the neurons binds to the receptors on the outside of the muscle fiber. This ignites the chemical reaction inside the muscle. As you can see here, the muscle fibers actually contract after coming in contact with the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. After the transmission of the signal ends, the muscle fibers go back to their relaxed state. Now back to you, Drew.
Thanks, Drew. These nerve impulses are actually electrical signals that go across an axon. These electrical signals code information. When the nerve is activated, the axon's walls become electrified, sending a wave of electrical activity to the synapse, or point of release. The myelin, which is around the axon, is insulating the signal, speeding up the time it takes to reach the neuromuscular junction. For the contractions to take place, these action potentials from the motor neurons need to stimulate the muscles. Each neuron only stimulates a few muscle fibers. This group is known as a motor unit. Now on to Drew to discuss the sliding filament theory.
Thanks, Drew. The basis of this theory is that a reaction is caused by the actin and myosin filaments, which were stimulated by the action potential reaching the muscle fibers. The sliding filament theory discusses how muscle fibers bind to form cross bridges and slide past each other, causing contractions. There are 4 distinct stages to this theory. The first stage is muscle activation, where the motor nerve stimulates the action potential to pass down onto the neuromuscular junction. This is followed by the muscle contraction stage, where the cross bridges are formed by the actin and myosin in order to contract. Next, we have the recharging step. In this step, ATP is recreated because it was just used, and actin and myosin continue to hold their strong binding. The last stage is the relaxation stage, which occurs when the nerve stimulation ends, with the actin and myosin returning to an unbound state. In order for this theory and muscle contraction to take place, there needs to be a neural stimulus, available ATP, and calcium present in the muscle cells. Drew, if you wouldn't mind briefly discussing the target cells.
No problem, Drew. The target cells of this system of communication are any and all muscle cells. That includes cardiac muscle cells, skeletal muscle cells, and smooth muscle cells. There's a very clear interaction between the muscular system and the nervous system here. And now we will have Drew finish us off. Thanks, Drew. The nerve cells help control the muscle cells and the muscular system. The signals are released from the nervous system and travel through to the muscular system. The signals then cause changes in the muscle cells, informing them what to do. The cells then respond to being stimulated, react, only to end up in their previously relaxed state once again. These messages come from the brain, a big part of the nervous system. To round it out, the final pathway is the brain to the neurons, to the muscle cells, to a bodily reaction. And that's all we have time for in today's episode of Biology Broadcast. Let's give a big round of applause to our amazing co-hosts, the Drews. See you all next week.